In Victoria 2, there are many countries for you to choose from. You got Italy for people who enjoy having a population that hates them. You got Russia for people who like to be a cardboard cutout of a monster. And you got Spain for people who don't want to be a great power. So why would you pick Portugal? Portugal in Victoria 2 is a fallen empire. During the Age of Discovery, it used to be one of the greatest maritime powers in all of Europe, but after the 1775 Lisbon earthquake, occupation during the Napoleonic Wars, and the independence of Brazil, they lost most of their power. And this is reflected in Victoria too. Portugal the majority of the time slowly slips from a secondary power all the way down to a civilized nation. But hold your tears, because Portugal actually has one of the best positions in Victoria too. All it takes is the right strategy to take this fallen phoenix and make it rise out of the ashes into a great shining star. And thankfully, I happen to know one. My entire strategy around playing Portugal all revolves around one thing, and only one thing: colonization. But before getting into Portugal itself, I first want to explain how to even colonize in Victoria 2. There are 4 main factors in colonization: location, colonial power, rank, and technologies. Let's start off with rank. In order to colonize, you need to be either a secondary power or a great power. No civilized nations under rank 16 or uncivilized nations can colonize. Next, you need to be located near the state you're trying to colonize. This means either having a border connected to it or having a port that can reach it. Now comes the complicated bits. In order to colonize a state, you need to spend your colonial power. What is colonial power? Well, it's one of those things that the strategy revolves around the most, because it's basically your limiting factor on how much you can colonize. How you get it is fairly simple. You gain 100 colonial power from having the post-Nessalonian thought technology researched. You also gain 30 colonial power from every naval base built on your core territory, with each level of that base giving you 20 extra points. Building combat ships also gives you points. A full list will be shown here. Whilst there are a lot of them, the only ones that you should build are the ironclads and the monitors. This is because those ones have the best weight-to-power ratio. Now that you know how to get colonial power, where do you spend it? Well, you spend it in this little screen here in the bottom left. The first thing you want to do is click this little button where it sends an expedition to the uncolonized state. Most of the time, sending an expedition costs 80 or 100 colonial power. Now, if you're the only one colonizing that state for around about 9 months, then you'll be able to establish a protectorate there. But this does cost a little bit of colonial power to do so. Once you have that state as a protectorate, then you'll be able to upgrade it to a colonial province, which also costs a bit of colonial power. Now, if someone else tries to send an expedition, then a colonial battle will start. Each power will progressively spend more and more colonial power to increase their development in that state. These colonial battles either end in 3 ways. 1. A power gets 3 more development than the rival power, and so it will be able to establish its protectorate there. 2. The rival power withdraws from the colonial battle, leaving the main power to establish a protectorate there. And finally 3. The colonial battle goes to a crisis and the 2 powers have to fight to the death. So we're obviously going to want to avoid colonial battles altogether, just to avoid the risk of it going to a crisis and us being obliterated by all the great powers. But there's still one element to colonization that I have not talked about, that being technology. In order to colonize, let's say Africa, you need 3 different inventions. If you don't know what inventions are, they're basically, once you get a technology, you have a random chance of getting an invention every month. The chances of you getting that invention can be both lowered and higher depending on many different factors. The inventions you need are prophylaxis against malaria. You get this one by researching medicine in the industry tab. Mission to civilize, you get this one by researching state and government in the culture tab. And colonial negotiations, you get this one by researching breech-loaded rifles in the army tab. While getting prophylaxis against malaria is quite simple, that being you just have to have medicine researched and wait. Getting mission to civilize and colonial negotiations are a bit harder. Both of these inventions start out with a 0% chance of getting discovered. In order to actually discover them, you need to have other technologies. To get mission to civilized, all you need is to research either nationalism and imperialism in the culture tab, market regulations in the commerce tab, or naval statistics in the navy tab. All these technologies needed to discover mission to civilize unlock in 1850. Now the one we actually care about is colonial negotiations. The technologies needed to unlock it are only available in 1870. Those technologies are machine guns in the Army tab, economic responsibility in the Commerce tab, or naval logistics in the Navy tab. Each of these technologies will give you an extra 25% chance of discovering either mission to civilize or colonial negotiations every month. Also, if a great power or a country bordering you invents mission to civilize or colonial negotiations, then you will receive an extra 10% chance, but you shouldn't rely on that alone. Now, after hearing that, colonization may seem very complicated, and you're sorta right, I guess? But we'll ignore the fact that you didn't understand my incoherent ramblings about a game from 10 years ago, and the fact that you're not subscribed, and we'll actually go over what I have in mind for playing Portugal. My strategy for playing Portugal is to put us in a situation where we can colonize most of, I bet you guessed it, Africa. In order for us to effectively colonize Africa, we need to implement a sneaky strategy. Now look at the rules regarding location for colonizing. Now, because you can only colonize land if you're bordering it or have a port that can reach it, what if we surround a state with only us and uncolonized land? Well, according to our rules, the only person who can colonize it is us. So what if we take this to the extreme? Say we take all the states that either border another country or have a coastline. Once again, according to our rules, then only us could take that uncolonized land. So you see where we're getting at here. We encircle as much uncolonized land as we can so that us, and only us, can take that land. But it ain't easy. If you want to live out a Portuguese man's fantasy, then you must know what it takes to get in that position. Leading up to 1870, there are three main things you absolutely need to make sure you're on top of: your money, your research, and your rank. If you fail to maintain any of these things, well, that phoenix of yours won't be rising. Let's start off with your money. Seeing as Victoria 2 is an economic simulation game, it is to be expected that your economy is a big deal, but luckily for you, I know a bit of a trick. Congratulations, you now have a decent economy. Now, all shenanigans aside, this will be good for most of what you'll be dealing with during your road to 1870. But don't be a fool thinking it's that easy. You may be making money, but you're gonna need a lot more than that. Recall the rules for colonization once again. In order to colonize, you need a lot of colonial power, and the two different ways to get more colonial power both require money. And a lot of it. Starting off with naval bases, each level of naval base progressively costs more and more. If you build a level 1 naval base, it only costs you around a few £1,000s for the resources needed. Not too bad, you think? But if you want to upgrade your naval base to level 2, you need to cover the base cost for the resources, plus £15,000. And for level 3, you need to cover the base costs plus £30,000. Not to mention that Portugal has 6 core states, so if you want the maximum amount of colonial power from your ports, you need to spend £300,000. So in reality, you're not going to have all your core ports built up to level 3 by the time 1870 rolls around. But you're still going to need level 3 ports in order to build the ships you need. Yeah, did you forget about the ships? Because I sure didn't. Unlike ports, your number of ships practically decides your fate when the scramble comes around. The only 2 ships optimal for colonizing, ironclads and monitors, both require level 3 ports. And you unlock level 3 ports in 1855, and you unlock the ships you need in 1860. So you have 5 years to build level 3 ports, then you spend the next 10 years building ironclads. But this is not optimal, because you still have to spend your money on other things besides for your navy. For instance, you need to spend money on your armies during wars. Speaking of wars, for this all to work, we are mainly declaring wars to put us both in a better colonizing position, and for maintaining our rank. These wars will be quite easy, so you won't need to worry too much about Portugal's technology situation. Just spend your money on your army's national stockpile, and you should be good. We will declare 4 major wars between the start of the game and 1870. The first one is against Oman. Now you may see that Oman has land in Africa, and that land is crucial to our success in colonizing. So we need to declare on them for a piece of their African land. Now I usually go for Lindi, seeing as it will be connected to our colony in Mozambique. This war won't take too long, just capture all of Oman's African land and they should send you a peace offering. But what about all them's other land in Africa? Oh, we'll get to that. Alright. Next, you're going to want to conquer the civilized nation of Transvaal. This is to make our southern colonization easier when we get to 1870. And now you have to wait for all your infamy to go down after you send a conquest wargle after Transvaal. Now back to the Omanis. After you took Lindi from Oman and your truce agreement has run out, you should have the ability to conquer them. Might take a while to capture all their land, but you should get it relatively easily. Now, why would we conquer all of Oman instead of just fine for them's African land? Now, well, because it's cheaper. And we can't have a country named Oman existing now, can we? So in terms of war, those are the only ones that are required. For small little bonus though, you can take Zulu for the extra prestige, and to prevent the movie Zulu from having the Brits in it. God, I hate the Brits. But maintaining our rank doesn't just have to do with our prestige and our military. It also has to do with our industrial economy. Now for Portugal, we have to make our industry by ourselves because our middle class is too poor to upgrade to capitalists. And whilst we do have democracy, luckily that doesn't stop us from changing our government type on a whim. So we were able to switch to the monarchicus and start building factories. Now we have one last thing to mention, your research. The final piece in the road to 1870 is your research. For you to be successful, you need to properly manage your research. Now, if you were playing a nation like Prussia, who has a high literacy rate, this wouldn't be an issue. But this is Portugal, and only 12% of the people can read. So as well as researching things that will allow you to colonize, you also need to research technologies that will help people read, and be spending money on your education budget if you, for some reason, wanted a high literacy rate. But do you hear that? Listen closer. Hopefully you're prepared because it's scramble time! Everyone shut up. Anyways, as soon as the clock reaches 1870, start researching either machine guns, economic responsibility, or naval logistics. Whilst you could hypothetically get colonial negotiations from someone else getting it, it only gives you a 10% chance. Now, researching either of these should take about a year to complete, and after it's done you wait. You have a starting 25% chance to get it every month, so if you don't get it after 4 months, you're more unlucky than the Africans who are about to civilize. Once you have it, you're gonna have to hope and pray that everything goes right for you. There are a few select states in which you're gonna want to colonize first. Those are Somaliland, Basque Congo, and this tiny piece of North Angola. No matter how many colonial points you have, you must go for these states first. If you have the ability to colonize more states than this, then do it. But don't start filling in until you have it all encircled. Now with Somaliland and Basque Congo, we're merely trying to take it before anyone else can reach it. But with that tiny piece of North Angola, we are merely trying to stall. For some unknown reason, the other AI powers will try to colonize that one tiny piece of land over the other, much larger land literally right next to it. If they do manage to colonize it, they either stop at that or they continue going for the land around it. To prevent a situation where they expand out, we'll contest them in that state. Now, we aren't trying to win a colonial battle here, we're merely trying to stall them until we have both Basque Congo and Congo. After the first round of colonization, immediately go after Congo. Once you have it, you can safely withdraw from that colonial battle. If you feel like we're forgetting about something, then you're not wrong. We still have to deal with the South. Britain takes a few years to start colonizing the South, which is all we need. After that first round, begin colonizing North Cape and Huroland. Then you can finish off the South with Cape Colony and Namaqualand. But we still have to finish off the North. After you take Somaliland, go and colonize Amhara. Now all we need is Equatoria and Umbangi Shari. Go into Ubangi Shari from the Congo and go into Equatoria from Amhara. Now just wait 9 months and you should have gotten most of Africa within your grasp. From here, if there's any more uncolonized land that's not encircled, go after it. The stuff you've encircled is basically guaranteed, so you don't need to worry about it. Once there's no more uncolonized land outside of what you've encircled, congratulations, you made it through the most difficult part of the strategy. There are many reasons as to why this is the hardest part of the strategy. To start off, you could just never get colonial negotiations in time. The colonial battle in North Angola could go to a crisis. You could just be a bit late to colonizing something, and Britain swoops in and takes it. Hell, even Spain could go to war with Egypt and take part of Sudan and start colonizing from that. There are millions of things that could go wrong in this part of the strategy. But at this point, thankfully, you survived, and that's all in the past now. And now you can start chipping away at what you've encircled. You probably won't be able to colonize all the land you've encircled without building some more boats and ports. But after all this colonizing, it could leave you to wonder, why did I even do this? What would I even get by taking over a bunch of land and its inhabitants that probably never heard of a porch of geese before? Well, that's a very good question, and to prematurely answer it, you get a lot from colonizing. To start off, colonizing is one of the best ways in the game to get prestige. You'll probably become a great power just by the prestige alone. Secondly, the areas in which you've colonized are full of rare exports like tropical wood and rubber, which only few civilized nations have. Last of all those people living there will... how should I put this? We will coerce them into the army, which will provide us with a high military score. Now, the game is pretty much set for you. If Spain has a revolution or has no allies, you can go and take some land off them. You can also go and take Ethiopia or Sokoto or any non-civilized nation that you want. But it's safe to say that the phoenix has risen once again, and Portugal will remain a great power for centuries to come. Maybe.
If you liked the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. I just want to thank you all for getting me to 557 subscribers. In light of my scarce upload schedule, you should go check out my Twitter just to know when I upload next. Now I'm gonna answer some of your comments. Due to the views on your vid, your fate is now sealed. Congrats on becoming a Paradox tuber. Other than, of course, the sloppy second series, I'm gonna do other content, not just Victoria 2, or any other Paradox games for that matter. The first mistake you made was to run Victoria 2 with no mods. I personally really like to play without mods. I don't know why other people don't like playing without mods. And finally, can the country stick figures be considered country humans?
No!
If you want to be in the next comment reading sort of section, then be sure to comment down below. And with that, thank you for watching, and auf Wiedersehen!